Hey everyone, Camille and James here, 88 Fitness Training. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about unlocking the power of the side delt. So this video is for anyone that's having a hard time having mind-muscle connection with their side delt. We're going to take you through some common mistakes and techniques to fix that. So stay tuned, check it out. If you're looking to build up those impressive side delts, which really are responsible for giving you that shoulder width, you want to make sure you have a strong mind-muscle connection with them. And I can tell you just from personal experience, out of all three heads of the delts, the side delts can be pretty challenging to feel while you're working out.
Yeah, agreed. So
we're going to go through some common mistakes. So we'll just jump right in. So this video is all about how do you get more mind-muscle connection and engagements with the side delts. And I can speak from experience, like when you are training side delt, it can be really hard to feel that particular muscle working.
That's a tough one, man. It took years for me to develop that mind and muscle with the side delt. Very tough one, but stick with it. Eventually you'll get that mind and muscle connection.
Absolutely. So before we go into the common mistakes, let's just talk a little bit about shoulder anatomy. So shoulder specifically, you have three heads to the deltoids. So there's the front, also goes by the name anterior delt. There's the side delt, which is what we're here to talk about today. Also goes by the name lateral delt. And then we have the rear delt back here, also known as the posterior. And so all three heads are important, especially if you're trying to build shoulder size. But again, we're here to talk specifically about that side or lateral head of the delt and how you can build a stronger connection with it.
Don't get caught up with the verbiage, y'all. Anterior, lateral, posterior. It's just front, side, rear.
Yep, front, side, rear.
Don't get caught up in the big words. Don't get confused. Front, side, rear.
Mistake number one when trying to get maximum engagement on the side delt is going to be picking a weight that's too heavy and using excessive momentum. Yeah. So James is going to show you right quick what too heavy looks like. All right, so you can see he can't quite get higher than shoulder height with it, and then he's using a lot of rocking motion, momentum, to get those weights up. Yeah. So you don't want any part of that if you're trying to maximize engagement.
Right. You see I'm also coming all the way down, not stopping up here because they're too heavy for me to stop them.
Right. So let's show them now what the perfect rep looks like for side delt raises. Right. So he's going to come up slightly higher than shoulder height, and then he's going to stop just shy of all the way down, because all the way down is dead space. Your delts aren't under tension, and we're here to put load on the muscle. So by coming slightly up a couple inches, he's able to have tension on that delt. And then you really want to go slightly higher than shoulder height to get maximum contraction on that side delt.
Yep. And then we're talking about mind to muscle connection. This is dead space. You're not connecting to anything right here. Right about here is where you're going to start connecting with that side delt.
Absolutely. And a lot of times with the momentum, when you're reaching that kind of peak height, it's just the momentum that got it there. It wasn't engagement from the side delt, and that's why going too heavy is really a common mistake. So definitely lighten that weight, y'all. Like, we're not here to just toss around heavy weights. We're here to do some work and get the growth. And so a lot of times dialing that weight back helps get that growth.
100%. You know, you push yourself and you want to get stronger. You want to progressively overload. But when you're talking about side delts especially, form is first.
Absolutely. And, you know, I would say it's probably like a 90-10 thing. So 90% of the time you want nice, clean reps, lightweight that you can control. And then maybe that 10% of the time you're pushing the envelope. You're trying to overload and hit the heavier weights.
Those 10%, that's your partials, that's your sloppy form, that's your cheating. Slightly. Don't go crazy now. Just slight cheats, slight partials, et cetera, 10% of the time to get you to that next level.
Right. So mistake number one, going too heavy and excessive momentum. Mistake number two, that's pretty common, is maintaining a completely upright posture. You're probably like, Camille, what are you talking about? Of course you're upright, right? So this is a completely upright posture. So a lot of times when you're straight up and down like this, you're actually recruiting other muscles, predominantly the traps, to lift this weight and you don't have engagement on that side delt. So what do you do to fix that? We're going to put a slight bend in the knees and we're going to lean forward slightly. And now that's going to shift all that weight to his side delt. And if you don't believe me, try it yourself. Do it both ways and see where you feel the engagement more.
That's right. She beat me to it, y'all. Try it straight up like this, and then give you a slight bend and try it. I guarantee you're going to feel it more on your side delts right here than you will standing straight up and down, doing them straight up and down.
And I would say a lot of people make this mistake. If you go to the gym and you see people training delts, they're going to be straight up and down. But we're not here to follow the masses. We're here to grow those delts, y'all.
Yeah, very good tip, and you don't see it very often. Like she said, you're going to see most people straight up, straight down. Boom.
But you're lifting with your traps.
Yep. Get that little bend in there, and you're going to feel your delts and connect to your delts that much more.
So tip number 2, have a slight bend in the knees, lean forward slightly. Don't have a straight up and straight down posture.
Yep.
All right, y'all, the next tip is going to be not to lock out your elbows. That's a common mistake I see a lot. So you have your elbows perfectly straight and you're lifting your arms up like James is. So this is putting a lot of load on your upper traps. I mean, they're definitely what's pulling this weight right now.
This is all traps right now.
Yeah, so you want to have a soft bend in the elbow. And not only is that going to prevent you from lifting with your traps, it's going to protect your joints, y'all. Because if you lift with a locked out elbow over time, you're going to get one of those pesky elbow injuries, and that will sideline you.
Right, and we're trying to connect to the delt, not the trap.
Right.
So bend those arms slightly, just slightly. Lean forward just slightly, and you will feel your delts working a million times more, and the traps are no longer working.
Yep, so the common mistake is locking out that elbow. So soften those elbows and engage with those delts. So the next 2 common mistakes we're not going to demonstrate, but it's 1, not using the proper form on compound exercises, and then either overtraining or undertraining. So going back to the compound exercise, if you've been watching some of our beginner series, you know the compound exercises are where it's at in terms of overall muscle growth. It's the biggest bang for your buck.
Write that down.
Yeah, so you want to make sure that you're using the proper form and engaging those delts properly. So, you know, the best recommended compound I can give you guys for shoulder growth is going to be an overhead press. And I know James has filmed several videos on the perfect shoulder press variation.
Right, there is a best overhead press variation video out there. Hopefully we'll throw the card up there for you. But for side delts, when you're strictly talking side delts, you want to use dumbbells right here. If you're using a barbell, now the weight shifted to the front of your body and the target shifted to your front delt as opposed to the side delt. So remember, when you're doing your big compound movement, use the dumbbell overhead press as opposed to the barbell overhead press to focus on that side delt more.
Absolutely. And remember, perfect forms means focusing on all 3 portions of the lift, right? You got the lifting portion, the isometric portion, and then the lowering portion. Okay. So really take your time and work all 3 of those components of the lift.
Yeah, you want a perfect rep every time. 3 phases of the rep. If you pick the weight up and just drop it, you're only doing half a rep.
Right.
You're doing 1/3 of a rep because you didn't hold it, the isometric hold either. So make sure you do all 3 phases of the rep, get the perfect rep, get all 3 phases of your gains, right?
Absolutely. And then the last common mistake we see is just either overtraining or undertraining. And I've lived this, y'all. Like, I have throughout time tried to do 3 days a week training delts. It's too much volume, right? So my delts can't fully recover before I'm hitting them again. And it usually, for me anyway, has led to injury. So that's definitely not what you want. You don't want to overtrain them. You need to really focus on the recovery part, and I think that's overlooked a lot of times. And then 2, you don't want to undertrain them. You know, in some people splits, they might do like a chest and a shoulder day together, or legs and shoulders. Well, that's not enough exposure time for those shoulders to really get that growth. So
agreed. I mean, I've had people say they don't work shoulders at all because they get enough stimulus from bench press. No. Wrong answer. Wrong answer. You're doing a chest movement saying you're getting enough stimulant for your shoulders, you're doing something wrong.
Absolutely.
100%. You need a shoulder day. Give them the attention they deserve. You want big shoulders, give them a shoulder day. but don't give them 3.
Right.
If you can do them 3 times a week, you're not
Something's wrong,
doing them hard enough, and you're not recovering, like Camille said. So you're hitting them before you recovered, which is going to lead to injury and damage.
Yep. So focus on proper form for those compounds, and make sure you're not overtraining or undertraining.
Yep.
Now that you know the common mistakes and how to correct that, and we're doing all that right, let's talk about some additional techniques to really maximize that mind-muscle connection. First and foremost, I think you have to visualize the lift. So grab a set of dumbbells. James is going to demonstrate this. He's going to think about what muscles need to contract and pull to raise his arms and bring those weights up.
Yeah, a good tip is to close your eyes.
That's a good one.
And try to mind to muscle connect to that muscle. With your eyes closed, you get a little better focus, a little better attention on the mind of muscle connection. So I'll close my eye and then focus on the side delt raising the weight.
Right. And if you're feeling it anywhere else, then that means you're activating your traps or something else to bring that weight up. So really focus on those side delts and the contraction that you feel at the top.
Yeah. Another good tip is go from dead space until you start feeling that side delt. Right about there, I can feel my side delt starting to work. The dead space, I can't feel my side delt working. I can't feel it engaged till about right here. Wow, right there, boom,
Right.
I can feel it, and then I continue to feel it, squeeze, continue to feel it all the way down, and then hold right there before I lose it and go to dead space.
All right, so technique number 1 is just that mental focus, really visualizing the lift, visualizing the muscles working. Technique number 2 is going to be really focusing on the eccentric part, the negative part of the rep.
The lowering.
Yes, the lowering part. And so we talked about, there's 3 phases, but the lowering in particular, a lot of times people just drop that weight.
Right.
So you really want to come up and then lower slow, just like that. All right, so it should take you about 2 seconds to get up, hold, and then lower slow, about 4 seconds all the way down.
Just drop the weight one time, let them see it. See that?
Yeah.
You're missing out on half the rep, at least half of the rep, if you just drop the weight.
Right.
You're missing out on half of your gains if you just drop the weight. And here's what happens when you go too heavy. You can't do the negative portion because it's too stinking heavy, and you just drop it.
Drop the weight.
So again, don't go too heavy on these.
Yep, there you go. Really feel that weight, feel that tension on those delts. And then, it's just a great technique to work in from time to time, especially if you're struggling. You're like, hey, I can't feel it. So instead of just banging out your reps, go ahead and hit a set where you're really focused on that lowering part.
Yeah. You're going to have to lighten the weight up some probably, but I like to say keep your delt engaged. Don't disengage while you're at the top and then come down. Keep them engaged throughout the whole rep, the whole range of motion. Keep that side delt engaged.
Technique number 3 for more mind-muscle connection and engagement on those side delts is going to be focusing on the isometric portion. We just talked about focusing on the negative portion, the lowering, but now we're going to talk about that static hold portion of the rep. So James is going to go ahead and demonstrate.
So you want to go to peak contraction, up a little higher than shoulder height, contract the delts, and then hold. That's all you're doing is holding.
Really squeeze them real hard.
Peak contraction hold. So that means squeeze and contract that delt as hard as you can, and you're just holding it.
Yep, hold as long as you can, and after time, they'll fatigue to the point where they start to lower all by themselves, and we're still going to focus on that eccentric part, so really take your time. Don't let those arms just collapse.
And I'm about smoke, so they're coming down now.
Right.
But again, keep that delt engaged for the negative or lowering portion of the rep.
You got it. And there's different ways you can do this. Like one of me and James's favorite supersets, we'll come in and we'll hit, 10 side delt raises with the dumbbells, and then we'll set them down and we'll just hold our arms out while connecting with those delts, engaging those delts, and we'll hold them for 30 seconds, go right back into our side delt raises with the dumbbells, hold, and we'll do that 3 to 4 times. And let me tell you, a lot of times the actual dumbbell raises are the easy part and the isometric holds the hard part because of how engaged you have that side delt.
I'm going to talk about a burner. Instead of resting it between your sets, now you're doing isometric hold with no weight,
Right.
Looks easy, sounds easy. Try it if you think it's easy.
Yeah, it's a great shoulder day finisher. But yeah, tip number 3 for you is just focus on the isometric portion of that rep. Tip number 4 for you is going to be to experiment with different grips on your side raises. Yep. So you can do them neutral grip, overhand, underhand. Everyone's built different. I would call that like a neutral grip.
Okay.
There you go. Same principles as before. Don't make those common mistakes. But a lot of times we're all built differently, so sometimes changing that grip will allow you to connect a little better. So this is more of an overhand or palms down grip.
I actually connect to this one better than your traditional way out here.
Yeah.
I can feel the side delt working more on this grip here than on your traditional one straight out to the side here.
Right. And then lastly, you could do like a palms up, kind of underhand grip. I always feel this a little more in my rear delt than I do in the side or the front. So I would definitely stick to that, you know, traditional neutral grip or an overhand grip when doing these.
Right. This one or this one.
Right. But everyone's built different. So
True.
Definitely it's worth taking the time to experiment and seeing what works for you and your body best.
100%. And if you connect to one of them better, they're all lateral side delt movements. So if you connect to one better than the other, stick with it.
Absolutely. Why not?
You're still hitting the side delt. You're still crushing the side delt. And if you can connect to it better, you're going to make better gains.
All right. So that was tip number 4 for you. The last tip for you, tip number 5, is going to be partials, but at the top. So let me show you how this is done. You're going to grab your set of dumbbells, and we're going to come up to maximum contraction, come down slightly, and back up. Just like this.
This is constant tension on your side delt. If you can't mind a muscle connection, you will definitely feel the burn on this after a little bit.
Yeah, it's a lot different than being down here. Yep. See, this is all dead space. Like we talked about, you really want to start from here. So doing partials at the bottom doesn't really give you a whole lot. You really want to do the partials at the top so the delts engage the entire time.
Agreed.
And this will burn.
Yeah, if you're having trouble with that mind to muscle connection, you're not going to get it at the bottom.
Yeah.
You will get it at the top here. That constant tension, that burn, that will get you that mind to muscle connection as opposed to the bottom down here with dead space.
All right, that was tip number 5 for you. Partials at the top.
And they are a burner, boy.
Woo! All right, y'all, if you fixed your common mistakes, tried those 5 techniques, and all else has failed, and you still can't feel those side delts, grab a resistance band and do them with the resistance band. Yep. So a couple things with the resistance band, you're going to have variable tension. So as James comes up, it gets harder and harder, putting more and more load on this side delt. Yep. And then you're also under constant tension. There really is no dead space when you're using a band.
Correct. This one, the advantage is it gets harder as you go up. So you can feel that side delt working more as you go up higher and higher and squeeze, and then obviously keep it engaged as you come back down.
Absolutely. So definitely give that a try. One of these techniques are bound to work. I guarantee you, if you try these and practice these, you're going to find what works for you. And the more you apply them, the more consistent you are over time, you're going to have a really strong mind-muscle connection, which is going to lead to that hypertrophy, that growth of the shoulder, which is why we're all here watching this video.
100%. Shoulders are tough, man, so don't get frustrated. Just stick with it. I'm telling you, it took me at least a couple of years before I could get a good mind and muscle with the shoulder. So stick with it. You eventually will get it. It's a tough one, but if you stick with it, you'll eventually get it.
Absolutely. All right, y'all, there you have it. So just as a recap, you know, when you're training delts, there's 3 heads to the delts: the front, the side, the rear. Yep, front, side, rear. So when we're talking about side delts in particular, you really want to avoid some of those common mistakes that we talked about. Yep. And probably the number 1 thing I would say is going too heavy and using excessive momentum. Yep. And then beyond that, really check the posture, right? So have that slight bend in the knee with the slight forward lean, and you'll get a whole lot more engagement. And then we took you through several techniques, 5 different techniques to really connect with those muscle fibers and get more side delt engagement. And if all else failed, you got your friend the resistance band with that variable tension. It's bound to work. So experiment. Everyone's different. like we said, you got to find what works best for you.
These are all small tweaks, small changes, nothing crazy, just small little tweaks that can make a big difference. So like Camille said, try them out. There's a lot of different tweaks we threw at you. Try them out. If any of them you feel, stick with it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video. For more like it, make sure you check out our shoulder playlist. And as always, hit that like and subscribe. Camille and James, 88 Fitness Training.
All right.